Hello everyone! In our last video, we received so many amazing messages.
The response was unprecedented and overwhelmingly positive.
I was gonna say these words, but I realized that I couldn't.
Huge amount of support from you guys. You guys seem to really like it.
And we received a lot of questions about who did we have on board and who was filming this episode?
Our new cameraman was.
Who's the new cameraman? If you haven't already looked at the video that we're talking about, definitely check it out. We'll wait right here. Go ahead, do that, and come back here when you're done.
We'll wait. There's a link in the description below. Click on that. If you haven't seen it, go watch that.
And for the rest of you who has seen it, well, we'll let you in on a little secret.
Dun dun dun! Because we got so many questions and so many conspiracy theories. No cameraman.
No cameraman.
That was all shot and filmed and planned by just the two of us.
We decided to make this video as a bit of an insight to share some tips and camera tricks as to how we were able to manage to film this by ourselves. So you can consider this video as a behind the scenes of the behind the scenes.
Or a masterclass in advanced video selfies.
There you go.
Are you ready? Mm-hmm. We're rolling? Okay, action.
Before we get into how we made this video, let's kind of go back and talk about why we decided to make this video. We get often asked from people who we meet along the way, how does it feel for us to have so much of our lives shared with the public, or for strangers to know so much about us while we don't really know them. Mm-hmm. And the truth is, we don't really share that much publicly, honestly.
No. I mean, think about it. If we make a 15-minute video every week, that's only about 1% or 1.5% of what we end up doing in a week. And a lot of it, we sort of choose to focus on like a single storyline or a single boat project or a single travel adventure or something like that. And no matter what we do, no matter how hard we try to show sort of an honest summary of what we do, it's still a highlight reel. I mean, anytime it's edited or anytime you choose to turn a camera on to film something, it's a highlight reel. It's a choice that's been made. So we only really end up sharing, 1 or 2% of what actually goes on in our lives here on YouTube. So we decided to try to share the rest of it. Mm-hmm. This, like, what our sort of daily life actually looks like and what really goes on our boat. In order to be able to give you that perspective, we decided the best way was to have some sort of a fly on the wall looking at our lives from a different point of view. So we don't have a team of people following us around with a camera all day. It's really just Den and I filming, producing, editing, everything by ourselves. So we had to be extra creative and challenge ourselves to do something completely different than what we usually do with our vlogs. Because normally we do this, right? We talk to you, we include you. We can explain things to you as we go. Yeah, so the challenge for us was to not break that fourth wall, to kind of exclude you from this film piece, if you want to call it that way. And that was gonna be a challenge. Ah, got it. All right, I'll meet you there.
It's nice of Uma to present herself in profile.
Right?
Just be over like one pole. Right?
Right.
Okay. I can see your heels. It's fine. We got the shot. The things we do to make it look like we're not filming ourselves. I think today we're going to run further than we normally run on a normal run. Yeah. So going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth.
Yeah, doing the activity is something, but like filming it is like another level. So what is it that we do on a day-to-day basis when we're not filming? We have a pretty simple life, a pretty minimalist life. Everything we own and everything we use regularly is aboard our 36-foot sailboat.
A minimalist life is just keeping things in your life that you actually use and enjoy.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
And not having excess things, or not buying or consuming things to make you happy, but finding what makes you happy and only having those things in your life. So yeah, everything we have is on our boat, and
We're pretty happy with it.
Yeah, obviously our daily routine changes depending on where we are and who we're with and what we're doing that week. And these last few weeks on Anchor have been pretty sunny and 0 wind, so we've been pretty much spending every day the same way.
Okay.
It's zoomed all the way out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Exposure's good.
Well,
Yeah.
You can
so you kind of see that I'm there, yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. That's cool.
All right.
we wake up in the morning. Usually Dan wakes up about 2 hours before I do, because I don't wake up in the morning.
No.
I usually wake up very, very late. I think waking up is the hardest part of my day. And so, yeah, Dan hasn't...
In her defense, our bed is very comfortable.
Pretty comfortable.
And it's quiet, and the boat rocking back and
Yeah.
forth. It is hard to wake up.
It's so hard to get out of bed. So we came up with little systems, little tricks that Dan does when it's kind of that time of day that I should probably get out of bed and start working. And recently it's been making coffee, because we weren't the most coffee drinking people, but over the winter we just drink a lot of coffee, and I just kind of carried on, I think.
Kept going over this winter.
And so purposely making a little bit of extra noise making coffee is usually how I end up waking up.
I don't think you even wake up in the morning when I wake up, do you? I just kind of like slip out of bed and like slowly start the day, but then once I start making coffee, I start off quiet and like trying, and then by the end I'm like slamming stuff around. If she doesn't get the hint early on. But it's better than waking up to an alarm clock, probably.
Yes.
It doesn't like jerk you out of bed.
Yeah.
So that works out pretty well.
Yeah, and then once we had our coffee or sometimes tea, we get on the nav desk and start doing some desk work, some online work, replying to emails, comments, planning our next video. I start the editing process, then does some routing, planning our next routes, or
checking the weather, starting to organize the next boat projects. We tend to stay about 3 to 5 months ahead of our boat projects so that we can get all the planning done and the organization and the mail drops and making sure everything's ready when we need it. It is a lot of planning to make them go so smoothly. So we spend a good half of our day probably behind our laptops on a normal day.
And then early that afternoon, we kind of always make sure, well, we kind of go about our day depending on what we do. Sometimes we, if we're on the passage. That daily routine, by the way, is mostly when we're at Anchor, obviously on the passage. Yeah.
When it's rainy and gross, we're just drinking coffee and watching Netflix all day. No, that's not true. But.
No, that's actually kind of true. But, but yeah, if we're on a passage, we don't do any of those things. We focus on sailing. But at Anchor, we wake up, we do some desk work, and then mid-afternoon we go about our day trying to get some sort of activity in our body, whether it's going for a swim like when we were in the Bahamas, or going for a run, going for a walk, catching dinner,
or running errands. Sometimes it's laundry, sometimes it's groceries, sometimes it's filling up the water tanks, or doing some sort of boat project. Whether we film it or don't, there's always something that I'm fixing every day. And
while we were incurred for the past couple of weeks, we've been focusing on getting our desk work done, doing a few projects, but mostly getting out and getting some exercise. So luckily we were able to go for a run every day. And then after that we would come back on the boat, and if there's no wind, I would do my silks, because if there's wind, it's harder to catch the silks than to actually do the silks.
She turns into a sail.
Yeah.
And it's mostly her just trying to stay there rather than enjoying the exercise. Sometimes I do a little bit of exercise or stretch, usually stretch out my back, and start dinner or take a shower. And then, we eat dinner, and either, if it's nice, we'll watch the sunset and drink a beer or drink some wine. And if it's rainy and gross, we'll watch a movie and then go to bed.
Yeah.
So,
and then rinse and repeat, basically.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much what our off-camera routine has been like lately.
Yeah, on Anchor.
Yeah.
So those were the sort of activities we wanted to focus on in this past video, because we normally show you the sort of adventure, fun, touristy things we do, or the boat work project things we do, but it's everything else that we don't show that we tried to capture in this video. Yeah. So that was definitely going to be a challenge for us because we'd never done it before.
Kika, look up.
Oh, that's something. Whoa. Can it follow me everywhere?
It's like a crane shot. Oh, we should have had this as a running shot, man.
You can run with that?
Yeah.
Nope, I can't run with it. I quit. This is like the biggest selfie stick of all selfie sticks.
Before we get into the techniques that we use to film this video, let's talk about the gear and camera equipment that we had. Because I know in the video, it almost seems like we have 10 cameras running all at the same time. The truth is, we only have our main camera, which is the Canon EOS R.
Just what we're
the
filming.
one we're filming right now. Boom. This is the camera that we have.
Just the one microphone on top as well. All the audio was recorded in camera.
Yep.
Most of the time, if it was just one of us in the shot, we were hand holding it. Obviously that works well because then we can pan and frame and it's much easier. If both of us were in the shot, it was on a tripod. Which is this big beastie thing. You've probably seen it in a few of our other videos.
Yep.
We need a smaller tripod, but it works. And then for some of the running shots, we do have a gimbal. I think this is like a Zhiyun Weeble S. Anything? You only need one shot.
We're gonna try to do some gimbal shot, trying to have a third runner with us.
This is so much harder than it looks to me. It's like, film yourself.
Yeah. We got this though. I think we got it.
I'm gonna run behind you this time. I'm gonna have better control over it.
Okay.
We don't use it very often, but it's super handy to have when we do use it, especially like in the dinghy, those kinds of shots. When I was filming Kika and the Silks, all of those shots were shot on the gimbal. And then we have a drone. Any of the shots in the air were shot on a drone. It's just like a little Mavic Air. It works well. Tiny little thing, easy to fly.
And then we had the GoPro.
Your ankle in and like. Nice. Well,
It didn't.
What's this thing?
That looks like you tripped.
No, but I got it nice and dirty.
The GoPro had only one fame moment in this video. Just one shot for like half a second. And if you keep an eye open during this video, you would actually notice which shot it is, because it's kind of self-explanatory why we would have a GoPro for that one shot.
Let us know if you noticed which shot was a GoPro shot.
Yeah, but other than that, that is it. That is our whole camera equipment. We only use, for the most part, we only use the camera. And then for the extra obvious part, we would use the drone or the GoPro, and that's about it.
That was it.
Yeah.
We tend to keep our camera gear pretty minimal. Yeah, we just have the one body, one microphone, two lenses for now, sort of a wide angle one, and then a little bit closer up of a zoom one. And that's it. It's all of the angles were shot on the same camera, so it's just moving the camera between all the different angles. All of this is sort of experimental, which is kind of why we're filming this day in the life sort of video anyway.
Just to get use of all of our crazy gear.
Yeah, well, just to push ourselves outside of the normal sort of like vlog that we sort of normally do, either boat projects or like sailing from point A to point B.
Yeah, challenging ourselves. Like we always like to do that.
Creative.
Exactly.
So we don't go mad.
We don't have a film crew, so we are our own film crew. And we have to just deal with it.
We chose to try to make it look like we have a film crew for this video, which is incredibly difficult when you don't have a film crew.
But yeah, I mean, it's possible. And now we're just changing our scenery.
Location number 5.
Because if we keep running the exact same path in front of the exact same tree, I think people might notice. I think we got the shot.
So far,
we're gonna change. Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Locked off shots. We've got drone shots. We've got GoPro shots. We've
gimbal
got
shots. It's been fun. It's gonna be equally as fun to edit this together.
This next location is beautiful though, because we run down a hill and then it opens up to the ocean. It's absolutely magnificent.
Oh yeah, that's gonna be a good one.
We'll have some fun down there.
What do you think? Not a drone shot again, just like a lockdown tripod shot.
Locked off tripod. As we like run past. It's gonna be like one shot.
Yeah, good idea. So
we've boiled it down into basically 5 separate tips or tricks, I'm not sure what to call them, on how we sort of pulled off this illusion of having a film crew following us around all day. And the first and most important one is definitely planning.
Yes.
Because it doesn't really matter what gear you have. If you're creative and are willing to put in the planning, you can figure out a way to make it happen. on a normal weekly episode, if it's a boat project or a sailing trip, we don't plan too much. We will sometimes sit down over coffee and just kind of like maybe bullet point out or just talk about like what we're planning to film, just to make sure we're both on the same page and we both know what shots to get and, you know, what sort of needs to be explained. But it's not much, maybe a couple of bullet points just to make sure that we get everything that we need, so that when Kika goes to edit, we're not missing a bunch of footage or missing a big explanation of like why we did something.
Well, because also like for our episodes, we kind of do try to get one story out, and we learn to stray away from getting distracted too easily. Yeah, so if we focus on one project, we usually try to make sure that we don't talk about like a million other things while we're trying to share with you this one project.
And that's just sort of our style.
Yeah.
And that's just sort of what we found works for us, is to sort of focus on a single storyline in each video. But this specific video took a lot more planning because it was just the two of us and because we only have one camera. We sat down and basically highlighted everything that we'd been doing every day for the past 3 weeks, and just sort of like coming up with an average day and then figuring out how we were going to film it, what shots we were going to get, what angles we were going to get, because it is tricky to kind of, we don't have a camera crew, so it is tricky to kind of plan out each section, and a lot of it we sort of made decisions out in the field and on the fly, but we definitely planned this one out more. Which sounds sort of counterintuitive, because we planned out more and did more takes to make it look like it was a normal day, to try to show you
the reality
that it was a normal day. And it was a very tricky thing to pull off.
What do you think of this filming adventure so far?
We're getting more of a workout today, pretending to do what we actually do every day, than the amount of energy we spend every day just doing it. It's kind of like a boat project where like you have to crawl in, but they have to crawl back out and get the camera and put it in, then go in and then show doing it and then go back and show getting it. It's like that. Like, we've been running out here every day, but like film it in a way that doesn't look like we're filming it. It's really tricky, actually. I'm winded.
Most of the time when we're filming a video, we're holding the camera. If both of us are in the shot, one of us is holding the camera, so you can see both of us, but then you obviously know we're the ones holding the camera. And if it's just one of us in the shot, that's easy because the other one can film it. But the trickiest part about filming with this sort of illusion of having a film crew is to get both of us in the shot without holding the camera. And so for that, we relied heavily on our tripod.
And that brings us to our second point, or trick, or tips, if you want to call it, the tripod. All right.
Think it was worth it?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's funny how much effort we put for literally a 3-second shot. I think we have about 1 to 2 minutes of saying to shut up, 1 minute of actually doing it, and then 2 minutes to pick it up again. And then we use 3 seconds of it.
Yep.
Yay! Oh, I let my stick. It's a bazooka. All right, moving on to the next scene. So any shot that you would see of both of us and basically was on the tripod. And for using the tripod in this video, we actually had 2 tricks that we used. The first one was to visualize the tripod as if it's another person. So where the tripod would go would basically be in a place that a person could actually fit, or can actually be standing or hiding behind.
Don't worry! We're back! Should we do one leaving the boat, like, or should we just go to the dock and just like get that shot?
We should get one like through the hatch, looking at us.
Yeah. Do you want to just turn around? Then?
Yeah.
Point it that way. A lot of times we would sort of frame the shot handheld, and like the other person would kind of sit down in both spots, and then we'd go, okay, that looks like a good frame. How do we get the tripod to keep the camera here, and then we put the tripod in that place. No, check out this angle. It's pretty. Look at that. How like
nice.
wide that is.
Oh, my jacket is not on though, because I just finished it.
Yeah. And you walk along this way, so you'll see like the sun coming through my eyes.
Ooh, I think okay.
Some creative liberties there. Hey.
Oh. And usually also the tripod we would try to make sure it's at eye level, because if somebody's standing watching you, the person usually is a typical eye level person. Obviously
makes it look a little bit more natural.
If the person is short, it's different. But we kind of average it out between the two of our heights.
Right. We also made sure with the tripod that if we were going to be switching back and forth between 2 or 3 camera angles, that from one perspective, that second perspective wouldn't be in frame, if that makes sense. So if there was 2 people filming us, from each perspective they wouldn't see each other, which is a trick they use in TV all the time, like when they're doing a news interview or something, and they're always sort of over the shoulder so that both cameras are filming at the same time, but they're never in each other's frame.
Yeah.
And so even though we only had one camera, we made sure that each perspective, each angle would have been possible if there were 2 cameras there.
Or 3. Or 4.
Which is sort of a difficult thing to explain, and you probably wouldn't have even noticed, but if it wasn't that way, it might have like pulled you out of the sort of illusion that we had 4 people filming us at all times. These bugs are so distracting me.
Oh, what about a shot like this? Like, hey, like the phone is on focus, but then the camera is... That would be really cool, actually. Hey, just wanted to say. Oh, yes, dude, that's perfect. Let's do that.
Boat. Kika.
No.
Boat. Kika. Boat. Dan.
You're way behind you. You're behind your head. Behind your head. See?
Oh, I was looking at the phone.
You were looking. Oh, that was a brain fart moment right there. So the second trick that we use when it comes to the tripod is to mimic that sort of motion that we have, that handheld motion, because whenever we would hold the camera, either on a normal vlog or even in this video, every time we would hold it, there's always, even if you're trying to be as stable as you can, there's always some sort of movement, either because the boat is moving a lot or because even if you stop breathing, it kind of like has a little jiggle. So in order to accurately do that, it's something that we did in the editing. And there's a plugin that comes with Final Cut. It's like an extra effect, which is called handheld. And we just added a little bit of that.
And turned it like all the way down because it can get crazy.
Yes.
But our camera has pretty good stabilization in the lens and electronic stabilization in the camera to get rid of that sort of like micro jittery shake. But yeah, there's always some motion if you're handhelding. So
exactly.
Not making the tripod shots look like tripod shots definitely helped, I think. Now, the other obstacle we had to overcome were panning shots. Like anytime, so if the 2 of us were running and there was someone filming us, obviously the camera would be following us run by. And that, I think, was the hardest thing to fake, the hardest thing to
mimic
because we don't have, now they do make like rotating tripod heads that you can program in, and we could have messed around with different gimbal apps, but
we don't have one.
We don't have any of that stuff. So what we did was we used them very minimally, but anytime we wanted sort of a panning shot or a tracking shot of both of us, we would use the drone.
Yes.
Because this little drone, as small as it is, has some really amazing technology in it, and it allowed us to draw a little box around us and hit track, and then while we were running it would actually track and follow us, and we could tell it to like kind of go up and track us or go sideways and track us. And it also has some good sensors in it to avoid backing up into trees and stuff, so we could kind of just hit go, put the controller down on the ground, run, and the drone would just follow and track us, and then run back and pick it up and land it.
So our 4th tip that we have for you is to make sure that you match the environment that you're in. So for us, sound is a very big deal, And especially for this video, where normally in our vlogs, music is emotion. And for us to portray an emotion properly, I think music definitely enhances it.
I think sometimes you spend more time trying to pick a song than you do editing a video.
I go through dozens and dozens of songs trying to find the perfect one that would match the perfect moment. And it's always a hard thing. So for this video, not to use music other than the music we actually listened to was pretty big challenge. We would separately record ambient sounds, like the dinghy sloshing around, so that it creates kind of this movement and this feel that you're in a boat, reminding you where you are, or the slight breeze, or focusing on the birds flying by. And we would record
footsteps while we were running.
Exactly.
We just hold the camera down by our feet to get like running on gravel, running on grass, running on pine needles.
All that sound was recorded mostly after or before a shot, and then we would add it to enhance it into the editing program.
Also matching the sounds to the scene. So yeah, if we were on the boat, there was some little lappy water sounds. If we were on the dinghy, there'd be motor sounds. And obviously if the dinghy's far away, that sound would be quieter. And as it gets closer, the volume ramps up. And so, yeah, we had to record pretty much all of the audio separately so that we could cut it together and manipulate it as if it was the sound you'd actually hear when you were standing there. A lot of times if we're recording offshore, the wind noise is so loud that we'll put wave sounds over top of it instead, so it's not just like awful wind noise. But this one definitely had a lot of audio engineering in it. It was kind of fun to play around with it and like get all the sound effects and go along and collect all of our own sounds and mix all those ambient sounds to sort of create that environment.
The goal in this video was for you to only listen to what we listen to. So all the sounds that you would hear in that episode are the only sounds that we would be listening to.
Including your favorite little part where we started the run and then you put in your AirPods, and if you have AirPod Pros, she edits with them because she can hear like every little detail, but you put those in and when the noise canceling turns on, it's just silent. Mute. And so we like removed all the sound effects from there until the music started playing. So it was fun to kind of think about like what we actually hear and then try to convey that somehow in the audio track.
Yes.
And the other big one was matching the lighting from each shot and each sort of like scene, each sort of, yeah, I guess we call it a scene. This is a pretty cinematographic thing.
Sequence, really.
Sequence.
Yeah.
We don't have any artificial light, so all the light we use is natural light, but that meant that if we missed something or if we had to go back and film something again, we had to wait for that specific time of day to get the same lighting. Costume change.
Do you want to explain why you have to change like 3 times?
It's all about the continuity. Because we've got most of it filmed, but now we're filming like the sort of middle interfill shots that tie it all together. So I need to put back on the clothes that I had on when we were filming the original one. I think the biggest one was when you were doing silks, because we filmed that like 3 days in a row.
3 days in a row. So I would do my actual, because again, all of these sequences, major points of the day would be things that we actually did every day. If I would do my silks routine, my silks practice in the last 20 minutes, because every day, luckily, the sun was consistently the same.
Yeah, we had great weather for the past 3 weeks.
So in the last 20 minutes, then would come out and video that sequence over and over and over again, whether it's with the drone one day or with the dinghy the other day or just handheld in front, zoomed in the third day.
I didn't mind watching it. I mean, it was absolutely beautiful. I almost forgot I was filming sometimes.
And if you focus really, really hard on some of the scenes, you will notice some inconsistencies. For instance, silk, sometimes I had my hair up, sometimes I had a bun.
Sometimes the JBL was there, sometimes
it wasn't.
The headphones. The boat was facing this way, north, sometimes it was facing south. But
there's certain things you just can't control. Everything else is, which just comes to our 5th and final point, is the edit. The edit
where the magic happens, which is all this one.
It's the final touch to make everything consistent and continuous, and everything has to flow together in order for you to be able to effectively get that feeling that we're trying to portray. And because, again, we don't have 10 cameras running at the same time, because like it's easy sometimes if you have 4 cameras up and you can just do something and then you cut in between the camera as a multicam shot. But because we had only 1 camera, we had to creatively change between angles. And each scene that we, well, I keep saying scene, but really
I mean, there were basically scenes.
yeah,
I mean,
if you think about it, each angle that we would film would be authentic angles. That the conversation we had would be like the first time we'd have it, but we realized that for it to flow from one to the next, we would redo some key points, some key major moves, such as picking up the coffee cup and dropping it back down the exact same way. We redid that a couple different times for a couple different angles, just to give you that feel of, oh wow, it might have been the same sequence.
exactly. And then cutting those shots in between that action, rather than, you know, sitting down and then cutting. You'd cut like halfway between closing the laptop, because that really made it look like multiple cameras. And sometimes in the past we've used multiple cameras. Like we'd have a GoPro running and this camera and maybe the phone or something. And it's easier to edit because you just do something once. Like if it's a truly like an interview or something that we can't redo, then having multiple camera angles is good. But each camera is a little bit different, and how they look is different, how they sound is different. So you can tell that it's multiple cameras, and we didn't really want that. We kind of wanted to feel like it was all like the same cameras and the same match and the same, and this camera just shoots beautiful footage. So that's why we did it all in one camera. Because if we were jumping between a GoPro wide angle and then this camera zoomed in with a nice blurry background, I think it would probably be more jarring than if we just sort of reenacted the same thing once or twice.
Bye.
Oh, I was like,
I think we
to send you this little video to personally
sent. And that's a wrap, people.
These bugs are insane.
There's a lot of
We haven't had, I don't think we've had no-see-ums this bad since Norfolk, when we were working on the
Norfolk
boat
was
like last
bad.
May, and we were like
Yeah.
inhaling them. That was
Norfolk
brutal.
was bad. But that's what happens when you have no wind. But yeah, we've
we're
got
done
some
for the
really
day.
good shots. We've got some drones, we've got some gimbal, we've got some good follow me shots, we've got some tripod shots, we've got some GoPro madness, and we even had time to do some bonjouros for our patrons. So I call that a solid, successful mission. And now we are heading back on the boat, and that is a wrap for today. And in the video, we'll keep going on the day, but in terms of filming, we're done.
It takes like 4 days to
make
film
one day.
a day. From the stuff that we actually normally do in a day,
That's true.
it takes 4 days to make a day. We need some
alright.
DEET, I think.
We need some bug spray, yes.
Yeah, let's get out of here.
It was definitely the most challenging video we've ever made. We would plan it, film it, edit it all at the same time. So it actually didn't take longer than editing an actual step. It only took 5 days to do everything. But it was definitely more challenging in the creative minds that we're trying to push ourselves to have.
Mentally taxed us more too, because I mean, normally we just kind of do the thing once and go through it, but to sort of plan out everything was difficult.
Yeah, and obviously I know this style isn't for everyone. It's not everybody cups of tea. That's the
Cup of tea.
Cup of tea, size of shoes, sleeve of shirts. I don't know.
Just making shit up.
It's not for everyone, and we're not saying that just when you see a episode of ours that's different, that doesn't mean it's our new permanent style.
No, of course
It
not.
just means that we just like trying new things and we like to experiment. And some styles we redo from once in a while. Some we just don't ever redo them. But we wanted to push ourselves a little further, so hence the video. All right, we're good. Look at that selfie, mama. Oh yeah, baby. I can
Kika
get me all the
vlogging.
way out here. If you're wondering how I get my muscles, people, this is it now. This is gonna get me the sexy bod for the summer. Hell yeah.
I think today's like officially broken our brains. It takes a lot of thoughts and planning and creative brain cells to
Which we ran out of today.
but that's why we stretch our brains, because we get really used to filming boat projects, and we get really used to filming like travel stuff where we're like leaving and going off anchor and sailing somewhere. But sometimes it's fun to just sort of like stretch our creativity and try to film something differently in a different sort of creative way that we haven't done before.
I hope you guys found this one interesting, and I hope it explained a little bit about how we ended up filming our last video, and maybe you learned something cool. Maybe you learned something that you want to try in a video that you're making, or maybe it just gives you a better understanding of everything that went on in making it. We're certainly not filmmakers or cinematographers, and we didn't go to film school, but we like to push our own creativity and that's why we make these videos too. We make them because we enjoy them, and we like to push ourselves creatively, and we like to push ourselves outside of our comfort zone.
And if you did like this video, definitely give it a thumbs up. And if you like this behind the scenes style, we do have weekly chats on our Patreon page about every single episode. So definitely check that out. But hope you liked it, and until then, we'll see you next week. Cheers!
Bye.